In the quiet neighborhoods of Reno, Nevada, college students felt safe walking home after late-night concerts, trusting friends' houses as sanctuaries, and leaving doors unlocked in familiar communities. But in January 2008, that sense of security would be shattered forever by a case that would expose a predator hiding in plain sight and change Nevada law enforcement forever. This is the story of 19-year-old Brianna Denison, a young woman with dreams of helping children, whose own life was cut tragically short. It's a story of a community that came together in the face of unimaginable horror, of investigators who refused to give up, and of how one anonymous phone call would finally bring justice to a family torn apart by violence. January 2008. Reno, Nevada, was experiencing one of its coldest winters on record. Temperatures plummeted well below freezing, and snow blanketed the college town where thousands of students attended the University of Nevada. For most, it was just another winter break, a time to reconnect with old friends and take a break from academic pressures. Brianna Denison was no different. The Santa Barbara City College student had returned to her hometown to spend time with family and childhood friends. Born on March 29, 1988, Brianna had faced tragedy early in life when her father passed away unexpectedly when she was just 6 years old. The loss had brought her closer to her mother and instilled in her a maturity beyond her years. Brianna was the kind of person who lit up every room she entered. She had an infectious laugh and a way of making everyone feel included. She'd traveled extensively, throughout Europe, to Japan, and had even lived in Italy for a year on a student exchange program. But she never acted superior to anyone. She simply had these big dreams of becoming a child psychologist, wanting to dedicate her life to helping children overcome trauma and challenges. On Friday, January 18, 2008, Brianna made plans that would seem perfectly ordinary to any college student. She was staying at her best friend's house for the weekend, along with another close friend. They had mapped out their days, skiing during the day, concerts and social events at night. It was supposed to be the perfect winter break reunion. Saturday evening, January 19th, despite feeling under the weather with a cold, Brianna decided to attend a concert by one of her favorite bands. Her mother had encouraged her to go, not wanting her daughter to miss out on something she was looking forward to. It would be a decision that would haunt the family forever. As the concert wound down, Brianna made a choice that seemed reasonable at the time. Feeling worse from her cold and not wanting to wait for her friends, she decided to head back to the house early. The temperatures outside had dropped to dangerous levels, and rather than walk the several blocks in the freezing cold, she did what many young people do. She asked a stranger for a ride. The driver, a complete stranger, agreed to help her. He dropped her off safely at the house around 11 p.m., and she even texted him afterward to thank him for the ride. Everything seemed normal. She was just a college kid trying to get home safely on a cold night. Police would later track down this driver and completely clear him of any involvement. Back at the house, Brianna settled in for the evening. She sent a final text message to her boyfriend at 4:30 a.m. and then made herself comfortable on the couch in the kitchen area. Her friends were sleeping in the bedroom just steps away. The front door, unlocked, as was common in this seemingly safe neighborhood, sat directly in front of where Brianna had chosen to sleep. What happened next would perplex investigators for months and terrorize a community for nearly a year. Sometime between 4:30 a.m. and 9 o'clock a.m. on January 20th, 2008, Brianna Denison simply vanished. When her friends woke up around 9 a.m., they initially weren't concerned. The bedroom door was closed, and they assumed Brianna had moved there during the night for more comfort. They went about their morning routine, making breakfast and chatting about the previous night's events. They knocked on the bedroom door around 9:40. When she didn't answer, they just thought she was really tired. But then they opened the door, and the room was empty. That's when they started to panic. A frantic search of the house revealed the impossible. Brianna was nowhere to be found. But everything that belonged to her remained. Her cell phone, her purse, her jacket, and most tellingly, her shoes. Outside, the temperature was still well below freezing. She had been wearing just a t-shirt and jeans when she went to sleep. There was no way she would have walked outside in that weather without her coat, without her shoes. Something was very, very wrong. As the friends searched more carefully, they made a discovery that turned their concern into pure terror. On the pillow where Brianna had been sleeping, they found small dark stains that looked unmistakably like blood. The Reno Police Department responded immediately to the 911 call. Within hours, what had started as a missing person case had transformed into something much more sinister. The evidence, though sparse, painted a terrifying picture. The scene told investigators a story, but it was a story that didn't make sense at first. No signs of forced entry. No sounds heard by the friends sleeping. As news of Brianna's disappearance spread, the community response was immediate and overwhelming. Within 24 hours, her photo was on every local news station. Within 48 hours, billboards featuring her image appeared throughout the city. Hundreds of volunteers joined official search efforts. Helicopters scanned the vast Nevada landscape. Search and rescue teams with specially trained dogs combed through forests, abandoned buildings, and drainage systems. The search area expanded daily, covering hundreds of square miles. Veteran search and rescue coordinators had never seen a response like this. They had people driving in from California, from Utah, families with young children, college students, retirees. Everyone wanted to help bring Brianna home. The community really stepped up in an unprecedented way. Police launched an equally unprecedented DNA collection effort. Going door to door throughout the neighborhood and expanding outward, investigators asked every adult male to voluntarily provide a DNA sample. The response was remarkable. Over 3,000 men came forward. They had businessmen, construction workers, college professors, students, people from every walk of life willing to help. But the local crime lab wasn't equipped to handle that volume. They were looking at months of backlog. Recognizing the urgency, the community took action. Through fundraisers, donations, and corporate sponsorships, residents raised over $150,000 to pay for additional DNA testing at private laboratories. It was a testament to how deeply Brianna's case had affected the city. Eventually, experts managed to process every single sample, but not one of them matched the DNA of the suspected abductor. Meanwhile, investigators pursued every possible lead. Brianna's boyfriend quickly became a person of interest when detectives discovered troubling text messages sent the night she disappeared. The messages were insulting and indicated their relationship was deteriorating. They had to look at everyone close to her. The statistics show that when a young woman goes missing, it's often someone she knows. But when they verified his whereabouts, he was in another state. His alibi was rock solid. The man who had given Brianna a ride home from the concert also came under scrutiny. After media reports requested that he come forward, he voluntarily contacted police, provided DNA, and offered a detailed account of their brief interaction. He too was cleared. As days turned to weeks with no significant breakthrough, investigators began exploring the possibility that Brianna's abduction wasn't an isolated incident. Detectives started reviewing unsolved cases in the Reno area, looking for any patterns or connections. They had this gut feeling that whoever did this to Brianna had done it before. The level of planning, the way he got in and out without waking anyone, this wasn't someone's first time. Their instincts proved correct. Two cases from late 2007 immediately caught their attention. In November, a 21-year-old college student had been attacked in a parking lot. The assailant had knocked her down, pulled a gun, and attempted to sexually assault her. When she screamed, he fled, dropping a pack of condoms in his haste to escape. 1 month later, another young woman was attacked outside her home. The perpetrator covered her mouth and nose until she lost consciousness, then transported her to his pickup truck where he sexually assaulted her. Before releasing her, he took her underwear and ordered her not to look at him. The second victim's description was particularly chilling. She described seeing a child's shoe inside the truck, suggesting the perpetrator either had access to children or had victimized a child previously. The detail sent shivers through the investigative team. What these women went through was horrific, but their bravery in reporting and working with police was crucial. The details they provided, the description of the truck, the fact that he took underwear as trophies, these became vital pieces of the puzzle. DNA evidence from both assault cases matched each other, confirming they were dealing with a serial offender. When investigators requested a comparison with the DNA found on Brianna's friend's door handle, the results confirmed their worst fears. It was a perfect match. That DNA match changed everything. They weren't just looking for someone who had committed an opportunistic crime. They were hunting a serial predator who was escalating his violence. Armed with victim descriptions, police created a composite sketch of their suspect. A white male, average height between 28 and 40 years old, with a solid, muscular build and tanned arms. The image was distributed throughout the media along with details about his pickup truck. The revelation that a serial predator was operating in Reno sent shockwaves through the community. Gun sales skyrocketed. Pepper spray flew off store shelves. Women organized escort services for each other, and many refused to stay home alone. It was terrifying. Every woman in the city was looking over her shoulder constantly. They changed their routines, their social lives. Everyone wondered, could I be next? February 15th, 2008. Nearly a month had passed since Brianna's disappearance. Despite massive search efforts and thousands of tips, investigators seemed no closer to finding her or identifying her abductor. That morning, a construction worker decided to take a shortcut through an abandoned lot during his lunch break. He was just trying to save a few minutes getting to lunch when he saw an old Christmas tree someone had dumped in a ditch, with white socks sticking out from behind it. At first, he thought maybe someone had thrown out a mannequin or something, but as he got closer, he realized the horrible truth. He immediately called 911. Within minutes, the lot was swarming with police, forensic experts, and the coroner's office. The body was that of a young woman, completely naked except for socks. Nearby, investigators found 2 pairs of women's underwear. The medical examiner's findings were devastating but crucial to the investigation. The victim was indeed Brianna Denison. She had died from strangulation, killed with a piece of underwear that had been used as a ligature. The pathologist determined that she had been murdered elsewhere, and her body dumped at this location. The evidence suggested she was killed the same night she was taken. All those weeks of hoping she might still be alive were finally over, but it also gave investigators a clear timeline and additional evidence to work with. The 2 pairs of underwear found with the body told a disturbing story. One pair belonged to Brianna's friend, who hadn't even realized they were missing. The second pair was from an unknown victim, likely taken during one of the perpetrator's other attacks. He was taunting police. Leaving those items there was his way of saying, "Look what I've done. Look what I can do." It showed them they were dealing with someone who was not only violent, but psychologically disturbed. The news of Brianna's death hit Reno like a physical blow. Thousands of people had been following her case, holding on to hope that she might be found alive. Vigils were held throughout the city. Flowers, cards, and teddy bears appeared at the crime scene and at the house where she was last seen. The whole community grieved together. People who had never met Brianna felt like they'd lost a family member. But there was also this determination. They were going to find who did this. Nearly 10 months had passed since Brianna's murder. Despite having DNA evidence and a clear profile of their suspect, investigators had been unable to identify him. The case was still active, but momentum was slowing. Then, on November 1st, 2008, everything changed with a single phone call. The caller wanted to remain anonymous, but she had information that made investigators' blood run cold. She said her friend had found women's underwear in her boyfriend's pickup truck, and when confronted, his explanation didn't make sense. The anonymous caller provided additional details that immediately caught investigators' attention. Shortly after Brianna's body was found, the man in question had suddenly sold his pickup truck and left town. His name was James Biela, and he was 27 years old. James Biela's background revealed a deeply troubling pattern. A former Marine with extensive martial arts training, he had been dishonorably discharged due to drug abuse issues. He worked construction jobs throughout the Reno area, including projects near the university where many of the attacks had occurred. People who knew James described a violent streak that was really scary. He had hit his ex-girlfriend multiple times during their relationship. There was an incident where he almost killed someone with a knife over nothing. Once, witnesses saw him break a dog's leg for no reason at all. People who knew him were terrified of him. Despite his history of violence, James had never been arrested for a serious crime, which explained why his DNA wasn't in any databases. When investigators called to request a meeting, his response was telling. He agreed immediately and didn't even ask what it was about. Most innocent people, when police call asking for a meeting, want to know why. They're curious, maybe a little nervous. James just said, "Sure, when and where?" It was unusual. During the interview, James claimed he had been at his girlfriend's house the night Brianna was killed. When investigators asked for a DNA sample, however, he flatly refused. That refusal, combined with his alibi, sent up immediate red flags. Even when they arrested him later, he showed no emotion, no surprise, no denial. Just this cold, calculated response. It was chilling to see someone so detached from such horrific crimes. Police immediately contacted James's ex-girlfriend, who told them his alibi was completely fabricated. He had not been with her that night, and she had no idea where he actually was. She also revealed that they had a 4-year-old son together. With the mother's permission, investigators obtained a DNA sample from James's young son. The results were exactly what they hoped for and feared. The child's DNA showed a near-perfect familial match to the unknown DNA found at all 3 crime scenes. When you see a familial match that strong, it means someone in that child's immediate family is your perpetrator. Combined with all the other evidence, investigators knew they had their man. Armed with DNA evidence and a mountain of circumstantial proof, investigators moved to arrest James Biela. He was charged in connection with all 3 cases where his DNA had been found: the 2 sexual assaults from 2007 and Brianna's murder. As investigators built their case, additional evidence emerged. Fiber analysis from James's old van matched fibers found on clothing from other assault victims. His former employer revealed that James had quit his job the same day Brianna's body was discovered and immediately left the state. James Biela's trial began in early 2010, more than 2 years after Brianna's murder. His defense attorney attempted to argue that the cases weren't connected, that each crime had different characteristics. But the evidence against him was overwhelming. They had DNA evidence linking him to all 3 crimes. They had witness testimony about his violent behavior. They had his lies about alibis and his refusal to cooperate. But what really struck the jury was his behavior during the trial itself. Throughout the proceedings, James displayed a disturbing lack of remorse or emotion. He was frequently seen smiling and smirking, even during testimony about his victim's suffering. The behavior alienated the jury and demonstrated his complete lack of empathy. In late May 2010, after deliberating for less than 2 days, the jury found James Biela guilty on all counts. The conviction brought some measure of closure to Brianna's family and the community, but the sentencing phase would determine whether justice would truly be served. James's defense team presented evidence of his troubled childhood, including an alcoholic father who regularly beat him. They highlighted his good behavior while in jail awaiting trial. But these factors had little impact on the judge, who had seen the extensive evidence of James's calculated cruelty. James Biela was sentenced to death for Brianna's murder. Additionally, he received 4 life sentences for the other charges, ensuring that even if his execution never takes place, he will never again walk free. Brianna's death sparked significant changes in Nevada law enforcement procedures. Her family became advocates for legislation requiring police to collect DNA samples from anyone arrested for violent crimes. They argued that if such a law had existed earlier, James might have been caught after his first assault, potentially saving Brianna's life. Her family couldn't bring Brianna back, but maybe they could prevent other families from going through what they experienced. If taking DNA from violent offenders could stop even one person from becoming a victim, then Brianna's death wouldn't have been completely in vain. The legislation, known informally as Brianna's Law, was passed with overwhelming support from both law enforcement and civil liberties groups. Today, Nevada requires DNA collection from anyone arrested for a felony, significantly expanding the state's DNA database. James Biela remains on death row in Nevada, though no execution date has been set. His attorneys have made several appeals, all of which have been denied by the state Supreme Court. Given the lengthy appeals process in death penalty cases, it's possible he will spend the rest of his life in prison rather than face execution. Whether he's executed or not, the important thing is that he can never hurt another person. The families of his victims can have some peace knowing he's locked away forever. Tragically, violence would strike Brianna's family again. Exactly 10 years after her murder, her 19-year-old cousin disappeared after telling her parents she was traveling to another state with a man she had recently met. She stopped answering her phone and has never been found, leaving the family to wonder if lightning struck twice or if their worst fears have again been realized. The family still hopes she'll come home someday. They have to believe that not every story ends like Brianna's, but it's a reminder that predators are still out there, and we all need to be vigilant. The case of Brianna Denison serves as both a testament to a community's resilience and a sobering reminder of the evil that can lurk in seemingly safe neighborhoods. It demonstrated the power of DNA evidence, the importance of persistent investigation, and how one anonymous tip can break open a case that seemed unsolvable. Brianna's dream of becoming a child psychologist was cut short by a predator who saw her as nothing more than an opportunity to inflict harm. But her legacy lives on in the law that bears her name, in the community that came together to seek justice, and in the reminder that we must all look out for one another. Brianna brought out the best in her community. Thousands of people who never knew her personally spent weeks searching for her, raised money to help solve her case, and demanded changes to make sure something like this couldn't happen again. That's her real legacy. Today, Reno residents continue to remember Brianna Denison not as a victim, but as a young woman whose life had meaning, whose death sparked positive change, and whose memory serves as a call to action for all of us to remain vigilant and protect the most vulnerable members of our communities. If you have information about any unsolved crime, please contact your local law enforcement agency. Your tip, no matter how small it might seem, could be the key to bringing justice to victims and their families. To push these videos to the biggest audience possible, please like and subscribe and leave a comment telling me what you think of this case.